An increasing number of apparent shootings of cops around the country end up having an alternative explanation. Turns out being a little bit more complicated than that. Now, first tonight we have the death of an Illinois police officer whose death sparked a massive manhunt. Charles Joseph Glinowitz, a U.S. Army veteran affectionately known as G.I. Joe, radioed on September 1st that he was chasing 3 suspicious men on foot. Backup officers later found his body 50 yards from his squad car. Now, upon examination, he was struck by 2 rounds, one that hit his ballistic vest with the force of a sledgehammer, and another that pierced his upper chest. After the shooting, a massive manhunt ensued, with hundreds of officers searching houses, cabins, and even boats on a chain of area lakes. Authorities released a vague description of 3 suspects, though no one was ever arrested. Now, authorities later said in October that the officer, 52, was shot with his own weapon. It's apparently a suicide that was masked in this fake encounter with these 3 men. Now, that's obviously a tragedy, just a tragedy of a different type.
So they made up the descriptions of 3 suspects?
No, apparently they were listening to him.
Oh,
there's no evidence that I have seen that anyone other than that individual officer was involved in it. They were simply responding to false information that had been given to them by the police officer.
Oh, I see. I see.
Yeah. Now, there is a second case. In this case, it was in Arkansas. 50-year-old David Hauser called in a traffic stop about 2 a.m. on October 24th on Rural State Highway 15. Shortly after calling in the stop, Hauser reported to police dispatch that the driver had shot him and he had returned fire with his service weapon. He told investigators a bullet grazed across his bullet-resistant vest and deflected off a pen, some pen. He was not hurt in the incident. This was later, after investigation, Nathan Cook, who's a police chief, said, the crime scene was staged, the bullet hole was self-inflicted, he had laid out some different caliber casings to make it appear he had exchanged gunfire. He did discharge his service weapon. Now, in addition to this, we told you several months ago, there was, I believe in Massachusetts, there was a man who said that his police car had been fired on by a truck. Turns out, no, he had actually fired at his own police car. So this is not to say that this is a large percentage of all the police officer shootings. There have been some horrific murders of police officers, attempted murders of police officers. It is ongoing. A number are killed every single year going back as far as we have records for. But it seems to be a thing lately that some are committing suicide and attempting to frame other people, and others are simply injuring themselves or making it seem as if they had been attacked. And considering the climate around police and police brutality recently, it's not difficult to imagine that that might be playing into some of these decisions.
Yeah, this is pretty incredible. I don't know. What do you think their intentions are? Or what their incentives are?
I think that in some cases, look, with the suicide, it's impossible to know. His family says that he had no prior history of talking about or attempting suicide, and they still believe that someone might be out there. In the cases of simply like shooting up your own car, we've also had cases of convenience stores, churches saying that Muslims had attacked them. In this case, perhaps it's an attempt to either gain sympathy, or we know that in a lot of these cases, the police officers go on Indiegogo or GoFundMe and raise a tremendous amount of money. Perhaps there's a monetary incentive. Maybe it's just an attempt to get a higher profile, maybe to run for office.
Right.
The idea that you had been attacked it's a strong motivator for sympathy. I feel sympathy for these police officers. And so that's why it's all the more perverse when it turns out that they had done it themselves.
Well, it's important that these investigations take place and the truth comes out. I'm curious how many instances there have been in the past where proper investigations didn't follow and we just don't know about those cases.
That's entirely possible.
Right. Yeah. But I do think that considering the current climate regarding police brutality and some of the criticism police have gotten and the pushback or the backlash to that criticism, it wouldn't be surprising to me if some of this stuff was done on purpose to make a point about how difficult their jobs are. Their jobs are difficult.
How risky it is, how dangerous.
Yeah, it's incredibly risky. But here's the thing. You hurt yourself when you stage incidents like this to make it seem like your job is difficult.
Yeah.
Right? Because then you have people questioning other instances, and it's really a disservice to other police officers.
Yeah. Yeah, and the thing is, nobody wants to even for a second question when someone says that they're attacked or shot at, injured in any way. And it is a dangerous profession. It's not more dangerous than it was years or decades ago. It's not more dangerous than many other professions, more violent danger, certainly. But there are any number of other professions where you're more likely to die.
Right.
But it still remains a dangerous profession. And though we focus the vast majority of our attention on, I think legitimately, justifiably, on police brutality, especially that inflicted on people who are innocent and unarmed, that's not in any way to say that they don't face certain risks or certain dangers. And that's why there's no greater enemy of police officers and their attempt to be taken seriously and to have people take their side in whatever argument it is that we're having than the cops who stage things like this, who falsify evidence, who falsify the attacks. They're harming themselves and other police officers like them.